For all of my life, my mother would warn me about men. I grew up without a father, so I didn't understand male behavior very well. All I knew was that most of them, like my own dad, were wretched dogs, as my mother used to say. Apparently, he went missing after a night out with his friends. Rumors say that he left us, and others say he was murdered. My mother refused to talk about him, or any man for that matter. Sometimes I think that she was the cause of his disappearance. As for me, I didn't rebuke boys. None showed interest in me, and I didn't find any interesting enough. I almost dismissed the idea of marriage altogether. That's when I met Roberto. It was as if he had fallen from heaven. This man was not only good-looking, but also had a pleasant way with everyone, especially with me. He'd serenade me with romantic verses of dedication. During the town's festivities, he'd take me out to dance, despite the words of envious women who said that I wasn't good enough for him. There came a point where even I believed it, thinking that at any moment he would reject me for someone else, despite the oaths he swore to me. Te quiero no solo por como eres, sino por como soy, yo cuando estoy contigo. With these words, he would promise eternal love to me, and in less than a few months, the marriage proposal came, then holy matrimony. Oh, our first few months together as husband and wife were pure bliss. And soon, we were blessed to have a child on the way. My mom was very happy for me, but she would always tell me to be cautious since our relationship moved rather quickly. I always dismissed her though, calling her paranoid and telling her that she should learn to give love a chance, but I still took her advice. Roberto's popularity grew as he started a logging business and had to travel all over Venezuela. We did really well financially, but at the cost of him having to go out of town frequently. But he would try to reassure me that everything would be okay and that he'd return to me as soon as he could. No importa que nos separe la distancia, siempre habrá un mismo cielo que nos una. During this time, I found myself going crazy, and the insecurities I had felt for most of my life would creep in. It didn't help that my mom was being overprotective, telling me that it was suspicious that he hardly checked in on me while he was away. Which, yes, was absolutely true. My mind would automatically assume the worst too, but I tried to stay positive for the sake of our child growing inside of me. However, one evening, while Roberto was somewhere in the rainforest closing a deal, I received an anonymous call from a woman telling me to be careful because my husband was unfaithful. Of course, I tried to contact him, but there was never any phone service from where he was. I didn't even know where he actually was, so I waited for him to come home, preparing a long list of complaints and rehearsing the confrontation over and over again in my head. It was a constant roller coaster ride, because as soon as he returned to me, everything would be perfect once again. And he would shower me with gifts like my favorite chocolates from the finest cacao beans from the Chihuahua village. He'd also give me his undivided attention, and I'd quickly forgive him. But one night, he stayed out too late when he was supposedly out with his friends for a celebration. I was in my 3rd trimester of my pregnancy, so I didn't want to be out late since I also couldn't drink. I waited for him. It was 2 a.m. I had enough. I left the house and headed for the bar he claimed to be at. And of course, he wasn't there. They said he left 2 hours ago with a beautiful woman, not knowing that he was a married man because he was all over her. I was furious and left the bar defeated and in tears. My mother was right. I needed to breathe. I decided to stay out for a while and get some fresh air while contemplating what to do next. Well, I knew what I had to do next. Go back to my mother with my tail in between my legs. I walked around for a bit. Roberto. What the heck was he doing out here? I ran towards the sound, into a wooded area. He was drunk, with a pretty woman kissing her all over. Eres chica más linda del mundo. At that moment, the only thing I could think about was strangling him with my bare hands. But then, while they were embracing, the woman looked right at me with the most terrifying gaze. Slowly, her face changed into that of a skeletal figure. She whispered something into his ear. Tramposo. She opened her mouth and bit his ear, then his neck. He started screaming in pain, and she immediately started drowning him in the river. I was shocked, but also kind of relieved. Gracias, I whispered. I looked at her and the bloody water one last time and fled to my mother's house. I was shivering when she opened the door and asked what happened. I told her everything. She was quiet for a while, then hugged me tight. We sat down. She told me that the woman I saw who killed my husband was La Sayona, a vengeful ghost from Venezuela. It is said that she found out her husband was having an affair with her own mother. She murdered her husband for his infidelity, and then her own mother. She hunts for men who are cheaters, first seducing them as a beautiful woman, and then showing her true grotesque form while devouring and mangling them. Then my mother revealed a secret, that my father was also murdered by La Sayona for his infidelity. Well, I didn't know what to say. I guess the women in my family should just stay away from men.